Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
JALIL Hackett wants to move a little bit quicker. He boxed the pretty average Puerto Rican guy, actually put up a great fight because he completely f***ed himself at the weight, and that's, in my opinion, why he lost. And he got beat. He's not good enough. And then people respond on social media, oh, that's harsh on the fighters. Oh, what, you want me to lie? We say he was good enough? I can't say he was good enough because he lost. Do you know what I mean? When you're matching a prospect, 6-rounder, 6-rounder, 8-rounder, you know, once you start having 4, 5, 10-round fights, and we've invested hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, I need to find out how good you are. And I'm not even throwing you in deep, by the way. I'm just throwing you in a level that I need you to cruise past, and you got beat. So that shows me you're either not at the level or you had a bad performance. Okay? And it's not, thanks very much, have a nice life. It's just, we need to evaluate where you are.
8th of December, 2024. Richardson Hitchens takes a split decision over Liam Paro and becomes IBF 140-pound champion. In Puerto Rico, on the undercard, a recent MATCHROOM signing, the 21-year-old JALIL Hackett from Washington, District of Columbia, went into the ring with a 9-0 record, 7 inside the distance. This was his second fight since leaving the money team and joining MATCHROOM Boxing. It's said that JALIL had issues making the weight. Also, there could have been a bit of hometown cooking involved. His opponent, Jose Roman Vasquez, is a native to Puerto Rico, and he won a split decision over 10 rounds. Another MATCHROOM prospect on the card, Mark Castro, he lost his undefeated record via split decision to an Argentinian. And Eddie let the hairdryer loose on JALIL Hackett and Mark Castro, letting them know he expects better. And he came in for a lot of criticism, saying he was too hard on the fighters. But it looks like JALIL Hackett has embraced it. He knows he was supposed to make the weight better and perform better. Shout outs to True Media Podcasts. The link is in the description box. Sub the channel. Here's an interview Malachi did with JALIL Hackett.
After the fight, I don't know if it was taken the wrong way, what Eddie Hearn was saying.
I know what you're talking about. I think it was taken the wrong way. I sat back and thought about it, and I said, Eddie's absolutely right. If this is a guy that we putting you in there, you're supposed to be like that top dog. The fight shouldn't even have been close enough for them to rob you. You should have dominated throughout the whole fight. People were telling me, did we think you won? Yeah. But should you have dominated him? Yes, the fuck you should have. And it's kind of crazy. My dad always tell me, make sure you choose the people who are around you wisely. A lot of my friends was telling me, like, Lil, you supposed to dominate that nigga. You really was supposed to stop him. So since you didn't stop him, you deserve to lose. Get your ass back, you know, get right. Like my closest friends, like niggas I grew up with, they telling me like, nigga, you lost. Go back, get better. And but so many words, they said the same thing Eddie said. So it's like, I can't say fuck Eddie, but still be cool with my friends, because they both said the same thing. You know, at the end of the day, it's like, if you don't like what somebody said about you, change it. That's really it. Ain't nothing to it.
Mark Castro, the same thing, yeah? Like a lot of people probably never knew, and this was only revealed after Castro lost, that as an amateur, he beat Ray Ford and he beat Keyshawn Davis not once, but 3 times. His record was 177 wins, 7 losses. Obviously, amateur success doesn't always translate into the pros. Are the Eddie Hearn critics saying that promoters should never critique the fighters, leave that to the coaches? I think that's a dangerous road to go down. I think promoters and managers often have certain insights that a coach can't have on what the fighter's objectives and goals are. In 1999, Frank Warren promoted Herbie Hyde's defense of his WBO heavyweight title against Vitaly Klitschko, and he was knocked out in 2 rounds. Klitschko was a bit of an unknown at the time. Frank Warren used to have a column in the Daily Mirror, and I remember reading it, and he tossed strips of Herbie Hyde for cheaping out on sparring partners. At the time, Hyde was being trained by Brendan Ingle, and he had a reputation of bullying his sparring partners. Frank Warren obviously wasn't impressed with the training setup, and he put it out in the media. JALIL didn't look at the races in that Dobson fight. It got harder, but he didn't look at the races. He's not physically where he needs to be, and they need to look into that. Does he run it back with Vasquez? We'll see. I would hope so. I mean, Hearn is talking about Johnny Fisher running it back with Dave Allen. He's talking about Cameron Vung running it back with Gavin Gwynn. And hopefully Castro will run it back with Quintata. J-Rock Williams, he was suggesting that Eddie Hearn got his 2 prospects beat, JALIL and Castro. One of the LDBC channels suggested that Hearn got Joshua beat by Daniel Dubois. And Oscar De La Hoya does it all the time. I've never seen a promoter get as much liability put on him as Eddie Hearn for when his fighters lose. It's almost like fighters never lost before he started promoting. Strange. And I don't really see the problem with him saying what he said about his fighters. I've heard Bob Arum say a lot worse. He said he could have bought a house in Beverly Hills with the money that he's wasted promoting Terence Crawford. But Jalil seems to have took it on board positively, whatever Eddie's had to say. The question is, though, how good is he? He hasn't looked that good in his first 2 runouts as a matchroom fighter. Is it just a case that it's not his time?
Boxing
beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Anthony Joshua admits time is of the essence as he targets Tyson Fury in 2025. Now, AJ has been in Lagos, Nigeria. He visited President Tinubu, and there he is doing a little shadow boxing in Ogun State. Joshua said of a potential Fury fight, we'll see. Let's get it in the ring. Only God knows, but for me, we'll see in the future. Time is of the essence. Time is limited, he said. So I just want to put in more work. In 2024, when I look back, I believe I could have done more, and I have another chance in 2025 to do more. I'm going to make sure that I take every opportunity that comes my way. I'm going to go again. Ups and downs, they happen. To some people, it's always up. My life is up and down. So I have to get used to the turbulent times and keep riding the wave. I can't stop now. I have to keep going until I reach my destination. So when he's saying time is of the essence, is it that he doesn't want to get bogged down in a long negotiation with Tyson Fury? Or is he just targeting maybe 2025, 26 and he's out?
Boxing
beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Everything boxing. Big yourselves up. Andy Cruz could become Tank's mandatory. Andy Cruz is the WBA number 4. His next opponent is the number 12 in the rankings, Omar Salcido Gomez. And Andy and the number 5 ranked Maxie Hughes are both promoted by Eddie Hearn. I'm not sure if Eddie still promotes Maxie. He might have options on Maxie after he smacked up Gary Cully the other day. Andy Cruz's team requested to be the WBA number 1 in the convention should he win on January the 25th. Andy will be on the undercard of Diego Pacheco versus Steve Nelson in Nevada. If he's victorious, the number 1 and 2 spots will be vacant. Cruz could become the number 1 mandatory contender for Gervonta Davis in 2025. Or will they not request an eliminator between him and Edwin De Los Santos? That might spare Tank from embarrassing himself, ducking, dodging, trying to wheel and deal his way out of a fight with Andy Cruz. If De Santos and Cruz are locked up in negotiation to fight an eliminator for that belt, it will buy Tank a little time. Because you know you don't want to fight neither of them. I bet you any money he won't have that strap by the end of the year. It'll be vacated. Watch and see.
You won't be around next year.
Floyd Schofield looking like Styles P in the WB rankings. They're a little too high. Number 2, but barring a huge upset on February the 22nd, he'll lose his challenge to Shakur and he'll drop down the rankings, won't he? If Eddie Hearn can maneuver Cruz into that number 1 spot, he's going to juice it for all it's worth. Tank's got to either fight Andy Cruz or vacate the belt. We all know he's ducking Andy Cruz. And then you're going to hear Tank.
He's a snake in a suit. Snake in a suit. That's all.
Boxing
beats and rhymes.
no one can do it better.
7 days away from Jai OPETAIA defending his IBF Cruiserweight title against David Nakia. I'll have to work out the time differences between Oz and London. Fabio Wardley has been installed as the number 1 contender with the WBA. I'm not even going to attempt to chop up whether he gets a title shot against Usyk or he fights for a vacant belt. Too early in the year. Give it a couple of weeks at least. I'm not even going to entertain that he's going to take on Kubrat Pulev for that whatever strap. I'm not even going to do that.
Boxing
Beats and rhymes.
no one can do it better.
Now, if you're not interested in the BENN, EUBANK, back and forth negotiation, cool. What can I say? I'm following it through till I either see him in the ring or it looks like it's not happening. Now, there's conflicting noises. Conor Benn said no socials, meaning retiring from social media. And the tradition with that is people say they're retiring from social media, and in a couple of hours they pop back up and they're back on social media. So he said no socials, WBC world champion. Now a lot of people are trying to work out, is this a coded message that the Barrios fight is done, dusted, and ready to go? Who knows? Spencer Oliver on TalkSport today said he's heard from reliable sources that EUBANK and BENN is signed off and good to go for March at White Hart Lane.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
It looks like moves are being made for Terence Crawford to challenge Canelo Alvarez at 168 for Canelo's straps he has at super middle. And it's getting people talking. James Toney, who as it says here is no stranger to weight jumps, having won world titles at middleweight, super middleweight, cruiser, as well as challenging at heavyweight and getting popped for a steroid when he did that. When asked, can Crawford beat Canelo? He says Bud wins easy. Easy win for Crawford. Easy win. Trust me, Canelo is a good fighter, but he's not on James Toney's level. With David Benavidez now at 175 and Canelo's last few opponents not really satisfying the criteria of acceptable opponents in the United States, will Crawford be any different? I think a lot of people think Crawford is too small. It's too big a jump, 14 pounds from 154. So who knows what Canelo's going to do. But he has made it clear he will be looking at opponents in January, likely for a May return, with Crawford just returning from some niggling injuries. The timeline may well sync up for this fight to happen. Middleweight prospect Aaron McKenna says Terence Crawford would make a better fight with Canelo at a 164-pound catch weight rather than 68. He doesn't like Crawford's chances at super middle. Tim Bradley, he believes that Terence Crawford will beat the brakes off Canelo. Well, that's a good start. The people are talking. Let's get it.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
The Ben Shalom, Eddie Hearn, boxer versus Matchroom rivalry. What happens with that 2025? Well, apparently they actually have a decent line of communication. They're not best buddies or anything like that, but that's not necessary for us to get the fights that we want to see, isn't it? And the rivalry's been going on for a little while. 2 Ben Shalom withdrawals from purse bids on the day of the purse bids. That was Fabio Wardley versus Fraser Clark, Richard Riakporhe versus JALIL OPETAIA. The worst one was the Adam Azim, Dalton Smith back and forth. Adam Azim gave up his European title rather than defend against his mandatory Dalton Smith. Then he gave up his mandatory against Dalton Smith for the British title. Then they made up a fake fight with Harlem EUBANK to tell the public this is why they're not taking the Dalton Smith fight. Boxer need to leave that standard of boxing promotion behind them. It wasn't a good look. We're still trying to sort out this Conor Benn, Chris EUBANK fight. And we have Callum Smith taking on the WBO interim champion, Joshua Buatsi. There's a lot at stake for more than just the boxers, it would seem. What's Callum Smith got in the tank after that shellacking he got last year from Beterbiev? Buatsi, he didn't look $1 million against Willie Hutchinson on the Dubois AJ undercard. How are we going to match up these lightweights? You've got Caroline Dubois. She's got a strap now. She's got one of Katie Taylor's cast-offs. Will she be taking on Terry Harper or Beatrice Vieira? You didn't pronounce it right. I don't give a fuck. See, well, at least now, it's a healthy rivalry. They both have Riyadh season deals, and neither one is going to want to let down the Saudis, which is good. You know, a lot of people want to talk about pandering to the Saudis. Look, if they're not pandering to the fans or the Saudis, no fights get made. So pandering is good, apparently.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
New Year's Eve, apparently Puma Martinez had a bad case of flu. He was unable to fight and defend his WBA super flyweight title against the man he took it from, Kazuto Ioka. The show must go on, however. Japan's WBA number 9 ranked contender, HAYATO TSUTSUMI, 6-0-0, 3 inside the distance, in a super featherweight eliminator. Took apart Rene Alvarado from Nicaragua. It was 34-15 with 22 inside the distance. I don't know too much about TSUTSUMI, but you know, being it's the holiday period and there wasn't much boxing on, I caught up with this one. And I was impressed with that left hook to the body. Has a stiff jab. And in the 6th round, he hurt Alvarado with a chopping right hand and followed up with a left hook. The end came in the 8th round. Some blistering combinations had Alvarado defenseless on the ropes, and the referee had to step in and put an end to the contest. And what they're saying here was a relatively sparse crowd at Ota City General Purpose Gymnasium. This was the final boxing show 2024 held in Boxing Abundant, Japan. Shinsei Promotions. Alvarado, he just didn't have the tools, the speed, the power. TSUTSUMI, a little bit raw. Needs to move his head a bit more, but that's not always a requirement for Japanese fighters. He showboated, put his punches together pretty well, and it was a good performance. Very good offensive performance. Alvarado was game. He tried to stay with the jabbing contests for as long as he could, was willing to fight inside, landed a few decent rights, but ultimately he was outgunned.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.